Off top in California, there's a tree that's been nicknamed Methuselah because it's almost 5,000 years old. It's the oldest living thing on Earth. Play music.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.
Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. Me and my man, Charlie Kravitz. I've sent Charlie down a deep, deep rabbit hole about Bristol pines.
Yeah, Methuselah, I can't even say it. Methuselah is a bristlecone pine. Is LeBron the bristlecone of the NBA?
I don't think so, because like there's nothing like the bristlecone is just alive. It's not also dominant at this point. Well, I guess LeBron's not dominant, but incredibly effective. I don't know what their oxygen production rate is right now.
I don't know. It's lasted 5,000 years. There was an older bristlecone that was chopped down by a North Carolina student that was 5,000 years old in the 1960s, and his name was Donald Curry, not Ronald Curry.
a D. Curry or Don Curry is that Carolina is pretty funny because Ronald Curry was the better Curry there. At least he didn't embarrass them. You're an old man now. Speaking of old.
Definitely. 100% an old man.
I got to spill the beans about you offering me. You're not ashamed of this, and I
Not
want
at
you to
all.
be ashamed that you're offering people Werther's candies.
I've offered you this Werther multiple times.
Why do I want? They're gross candies.
They aren't. They're good. I know that they're good because I gave you one at the Super Bowl and you admitted that you liked it.
I admitted that it was better than I expected.
Okay, so here's the thing. When you go on flights, you might have some self-control. I go to the airport and I walk to the candy snack store situation, the Hudson News thing, with no plan. Zero plan. And so I just like grabbed some stuff off the wall and we were flying down to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. And I was like, this bag of Werther's is money because you can't really eat that many Werther's. And they're like they are an incredible tool to combat boredom because you got a Werther in for like 7 minutes. And so a flight from like you get through 5 Werther's on a flight, you're good.
God. We're gonna get to Myles Garrett and some Cooper Flagg talk in a second, but I'm not done with this Werther.
Yeah, well, so I had Werther's in my pocket the entire time we were in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, and finally, after we had dinner one night, you broke and took a Werther, and you're like, not as bad as I remember, Grandpa.
I just don't know why you were. So I am not like you in that way. Like I'm ready for the airport. Like I never go to the newsstand at the airport.
It's crazy.
Like I've already downloaded anything that I need the night before.
Crazy. That's
I already
crazy.
have. Like the only time I'll go to it is because I don't like waiting for them to bring me water. So after I get through security, I'll buy a water. But I don't go. You walk into the Hudson News and you're just like, what am I gonna get?
Well, I have a beverage plan, of course. Like that's not like I don't go in there with no plan. One for hydration and one just for fun.
So you do have a plan.
But no,
you just don't have a candy plan.
Yeah, and I walk up, I look at the wall, I look at the trail mix, and I say, not for me.
I get on my kids because they just want stuff everywhere we go.
Yeah,
every
duh.
Time it's like you don't even want this. You're just here. You just want like I don't need extra stuff.
I think you're nuts. Like the calories don't like. You're gonna be on a flight. You're gonna be incredibly bored. You don't just look at like a bag of the peanut butter M&Ms and then like a random bag of like hoppy rice crackers. And you're like, I need both of them.
No, I've decided.
Let me guess. You go to the movie theater and you don't get popcorn and candy.
I don't.
Or popcorn, candy, one chocolate, one gummy.
If I take the kids, I'll get them stuff.
So if you went to the movies, you and Ashley, you would not get popcorn and candy.
No,
I
would get
neither?
popcorn. No, I probably get popcorn. I like popcorn, but I'm definitely not getting candy. Like,
Nuts.
Yeah.
So you've never even thought, what about like a movie theater Slurpee?
No, I've had them before, but I don't go there. Like I'm there for the movie.
That's the point of going. No, you're not. You can watch the movie at home. You can spend $19.99 on Amazon. You're going for the candy.
I feel like I know I'm going to be.
I travel for the candy. That's
alone.
why I go on trips.
I'm alone on this. I'm pretty sure I'm alone on this, but I know I'm right.
No,
and my travel plan, my entertainment travel plan is not eating. Like, I think you're wrong there. My travel plan is I download some podcasts, I download some things to watch. Maybe I'll download something to read. We're not going on 8-hour flights like most will do is like 3, 2, sometimes 5.5 to California. You're like, yeah, I got a good plan. I don't need no damn candy because I'm so bored. I need candy.
Yeah, well, that's why you look the way you do and I look the way I do. This is a deep understanding amongst many other things of our fitness levels. But the thing about those Werthers, to my point, it's a month and a half later and they're just sitting in my backpack. Just popped out a Werther, opened it, looked at my computer charger. I was like, ooh, Here's a butterscotch treat to brighten my day.
Why do old people like those candies?
I don't know, because are we still making other butterscotch options?
I know, but why do they like butterscotch? I don't understand.
It's because it's good.
It's not. It's fine. It's what it is. It's fine.
Totally fine. I just can't. So you have never been like just drawn to the allure of a random candy smattering at the airport?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not like, it's been a long time. I'm not.
The calories don't even count.
So if I'm a candy guy, I'm a sour candy guy. I'm not a sweet candy guy.
That's totally
Right,
fine.
so, like, if
sometimes I get a sour candy.
I don't remember the last time I went out and bought some candy.
I'm with Sour Patch Kids on the plane.
Actually,
Sour Patch Kids on the plane. You can't see this for the audio audience. Gets a little bit on your fingies.
Yeah, you have to lick your fingers, and you can't. You just gotta wipe
And
your shirt.
you also can't be going like this
Yeah.
and just clapping the sour dust everywhere. You gotta have some strategy.
I rarely see. I actually bought some Reese's not too long ago.
I bought you Reese's at that airport too, and you didn't want them either.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I'm sorry. I appreciate this. I was the thought that count.
Yeah.
I bought some Reese's and was disappointed in them.
Really?
Recently, yeah.
Why?
Because they were like some special version Reese's. It made me think of Mike Golick Jr. And so they were like special like Reese's with like some sort of chocolatey something inside.
Oh, the lava
Yeah,
Reese's?
yeah. Whack.
Not for me.
Overrated.
Not for me. I do love a lava cake though.
Ew. I'm good.
It's an elite dessert.
I'm not a big chocolate guy.
Huh.
Yeah, so I mean it's fine. I like
Lava
chocolate
cake,
with peanut
vanilla
butter.
icing. Vanilla ice cream, elite. Okay, by the way, before we get into the football stuff, we have to talk about one other thing. We have a producer named John.
Oh, I tried to save you. I tried to save you, John B.
His name's John Brown because he has very strong social stances that align with Johnny B. He comes in today and just starts talking about how great how great Lawrence Fishburne was in Deep Blue Sea.
Deepest, bluest. My head is like a shark's fin.
It was Sam Jackson, the movie.
Yes, yeah. I assume that everyone knows that except for John B.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Then Deep Blue Sea is one of your favorite movies for some odd reason. I don't get it. I've never seen it because LL Cool J's music video was so offensive that I refused to give Deep Blue Sea my money.
Deep Blue Sea.
My head is like a shark's fin. What are you talking about?
That's a bar.
It's not.
Deep Blue Sea, National Treasure, Fast and Furious, all elite.
Sorry, John B. I tried to save you.
No, you didn't.
I did, Coach.
You highlighted it in the doc. We're looking at a shared document. You're just trying to get out of it.
I tried to move past it. I thought because we got enough out of Werther's, we got enough out of that. So I was like, we don't need to embarrass John B.
Oh man, the YouTube audience who's just clicked on a random ESPN video that's probably titled about Myles Garrett is livid right now. The random people are like, this isn't Stephen A. yelling about the unmitigated gall of the Browns re-signing Myles Garrett. Why are these losers talking about Werther's? Because we're doing it for our podcast audience.
This confidence, man. I love it.
Shaking out the shoulders. So you want to talk about Myles Garrett?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
At this point, I want you to talk about anything because you're on fire.
I've got like 5 Werthers in my system. I'm good to go.
You high on Werther's?
I just kept popping them once you were insulting me with them. Yeah. So
all right.
One of the big stories of Super Bowl week and what came out of it was Myles Garrett demanding a trade from the dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns in the post-Deshaun Watson contract era. And we had a segment on our show where you and Kevin Clark were talking about teams should give up whatever it takes for Myles Garrett. He's the best defensive player in the NFL. He's a complete outlier physically. He's likely going to the Hall of Fame, and he just seems to be getting better and better. Well, today, we're taping this on Sunday, March 9th. We found out that Myles Garrett is staying in Cleveland. Yeah. He is got $123 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Sorry, Max Crosby, you had that title for about a day. And the guy who said he wanted to play for a contender, he wanted to play for a Super Bowl, is now going to presumably play the vast majority or the rest of his career in Cleveland. Yeah. Your thoughts about how this went down?
The rest of his meaningful years, I would think,
yeah.
At least maybe he'll be just like how Von Miller is at this point towards the end, just kind of bouncing around, available to give you a little bit of help here and there. But I was surprised, and honestly, I was disappointed in myself because I believed it. I fell for it. Like, there's some guys who it's just about the money, and then there's some guys who you're like, yeah, I think that this is genuine. I thought Myles Garrett really wanted to play for a contender. I knew that he needed a new contract, but I thought that it was genuine, and then they gave him enough money. So what do you think happened?
That's what I wanted to ask you.
A negotiation ploy, or do you think that they just gave him so much money that he was like, fine, I'll do it?
That's exactly what I think happened. I think that he was like, I'm out of here. I have had my career. I was on one of the best defenses in the NFL. It seemed like we had a chance. This team seemed like it was heading in the right direction and went all in, whether or not because of the off the field stuff, we agree with the Deshaun Watson thing. Obviously, it's not a move I would have made because of how he was as a person or as a player, but they tried to go all in and win a Super Bowl because of how good the defense was. And it is turned into probably the worst move in NFL history to give that contract and that picks to that player. And I was like, oh, Garrett's done with this. He can go to a team, even if a team has to give up massive draft capital with him. He cares about winning a Super Bowl. He's going to get paid regardless. He's that good. But you think it was different? You think this is all about money the whole time?
I mean, I think so. It had to be, because there's not enough money and obviously there's enough money in the world to make you swallow your pride and come back. But he's had enough contracts and enough money, and he's going to, whoever signs it or whoever traded for him was going to give him a new contract.
This contract, probably.
Yeah. Like, if I just assume that the difference in money isn't going to change his life, and that a guy who's had his entire career at a place that was kind of a non-contender, and they made the playoffs a few times, but not really contenders. Like, I thought that this was genuine, and I'm mad at myself because I like to think that I know better and I don't fall for these. And so I'm going to convince myself that, yeah, that doesn't work. There's no way that they gave him enough money that he changed his mind. His mind was already like that. And even if you bought him to stay, that's where I think the Browns made a mistake. Because if he genuinely didn't want to be there, forcing him to be there, like with golden handcuffs, I think is a terrible situation.
Yesterday, he was talking about how he'd be willing to sit out games.
That's nuts. So
something we're missing something.
It's negotiations, right? It has to be. There's no way that he was willing to sit out games yesterday in order to be on a contender, and today is smiling, signing the contract. Like, yeah, I'm happy to be back with the Browns. Like, it's this level. I guess that's what surprises me. It's like this level of talking.
Yeah, about the organization.
Yeah, is normally reserved for the end. Like, this is like we're at week 1 of the season. Like, the fact that he immediately after the season was like, look, I'm out of here. Like, he didn't even do the thing where you're like, all right, I guess behind closed doors, maybe he was like, I want a new contract. And they were like, nah.
No, I think he wanted out of there. And then finally he was just like, F it, I'll take this amount of money. Here's the thing. You call it golden handcuffs. The Browns, who are the Pontiac Aztec of organizations, they just threw away their golden bleeping ticket. This is the irony, is their team is Bruno Caboclo. They're 2 years away from being 2 years away. And they have this guy who is their one asset, who is, what were they going to get for him? I don't know. I can hypothetically say multiple first round picks, multiple day 2 or day 3 picks for this. And like, they need to take a hard look in the mirror. You always say it's really hard to be rational as a football team and like look at your roster. 2 years ago, they had the best defense in the NFL, and they still stink, and they still are in this position, and they still have Deshaun Watson on a torn Achilles, and all of the money is guaranteed. And if you, at that point, if you can't look in the mirror, if you're Jimmy Haslam or Andrew Berry, and be like, look, this is our one get out of jail free card. I'm not advocating tanking. Like, we are the organization that just went all in. We tried to win a Super Bowl. It did not work. We are now essentially locking ourselves in to, at best, a half decade of mediocrity, rather than trading this guy and trying to have enough bites at the apple, enough lottery tickets to make it. Because what are you going to do now? You have the second pick in the draft. Do you really believe in Shedeur Sanders? Or do you really think that the needle is going to be moved by getting Abdul Carter and rushing those two guys next to each other?
So I think that I understand. If he doesn't want to be there, I think that they have to take that opportunity, because I hate the idea of bringing someone back into the building that doesn't want to be there, no matter how much you pay him.
Just take him at his word. He said he didn't want to be there.
I mean, you can't pay him to act right. And I don't think you want the best player on your team and they're upset, which, whatever, that's a whole nother conversation. Where I do push back on you a little bit is I think that we find it very easy to think about everything as either we're a championship contender or we have to rebuild. And I wouldn't
have said this 2 years ago about the Browns.
Right, because they weren't in that situation 2 years ago. I get it.
I mean, they still had an absolute dog water
They still had a great defense.
Yeah,
they had a great defense, and they still had a good offensive line. I guess 2 years ago, Chubb was still healthy. They had a great running back. So, like, I get it. It's a different situation. And I understand why you're saying this now. But my point is, it's easy when you are at a bird's eye view to make that assessment.
Yes.
But I think when you're on the ground, it's also very easy to look around the league and say, like, the Broncos just did it last year, and find examples, and also forget examples of why it could work, but understand where your motivation is if you're the head coach or the general manager of a team. What you're advocating for this team, this group that's been there for, I don't know, 5 years now? Something like that. They've been there a good amount of time. What you're advocating for them to do is to go back to the owner and to the fan base and say, give us one more chance. We'll be good in 2 or 3 years. I think that's a hard thing to first convince yourself of. Then it's a hard thing to go sell to someone else. I think it's a lot easier to sell that he's great. We have the pieces to have a great defense. We have some weapons on offense, and Njoku and like Judy's a top pick that didn't work out, but I'm saying what I imagine.
That sounds insane.
It does not.
Yes, it does. You're like, first of all, it's the NFL. They're gonna sell tickets. This isn't.
No, it's not even about selling tickets.
But that's what I'm saying. Like selling it to a fan base. Like this isn't the Florida Marlins or the Montreal Expos. Like, and the Deshaun Watson thing. Look, it's not like the Broncos. Russell Wilson was an $85 million cap hit last year. Deshaun Watson this year would be $173 million or 172.5 of dead cap.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, if they got rid of him, I thought you said it. Okay. Yeah.
But that's like. They are in it's one thing if you can have some sort of logic being like most of these teams can turn things around quickly. The Browns' mistake is so unprecedented that there need to be unprecedented steps to undo it.
Yeah, I mean, and the unprecedented step to undo it is it's based on the idea that someone is going to give them 2 1s and 2 2s. I don't know. Like you're assuming that the picks are out there, and you're also assuming that. So forget any of these other things that you're throwing out there. If you are the general manager or the head coach, do you think it's easy to then, after having one all-in situation not work, you think it's easy to then convince yourself first and then convince the ownership, we're going to burn it down, which is essentially what you're saying. Get rid of our best player. We're going to burn it down, and we're going to make it work in 2 years from now.
I absolutely do not think it's easy. I think that these guys are paid to make the tough decisions to be stewards of the franchise. Like, look, and like to selling it to the fan base, you've seen me dead behind the eyes before Jaden came here. Yes. Like these people, like these fans aren't dumb. Like these teams aren't, like some of them are, of course. Some of them are going to be like Super Bowl 2025. Jameis just got to get hot back there. Like those people, those meatballs obviously are going to be the same regardless. But there are going to be a lot of fans who are like, we need to get out of this cycle. We need a reset. And it's not the detriment of Myles Garrett. They know Myles Garrett's probably the like maybe the best player in franchise history. That's definitely up there. Like that's a huge part of it, but this is an opportunity. The guy wasn't happy. He didn't want to be there. You got to actually get something back for him.
And the fans weren't upset. Like the fans were fine with it. Like I get what you're saying. The fans liked Myles Garrett enough to say that he should go. So I understand. Like it's not hard to make the argument that all these things were.
I think they should have traded him even if he didn't want to be traded.
Okay, well, that's a whole nother conversation, but he did want to be traded, or so he thought. But I think that all these things line up, and you're right. This would have been a move that made sense to be able to make at that point. But I think that it's a lot more difficult when you are in that situation. It's a lot more difficult when you are invested in a number of the players, you're invested in a strategy, and you believe in yourself. It's a lot more difficult to say, let's get rid of one of the greatest all-time at this position and hopefully get enough picks that we can land something somewhere near as good as him and make a run in 2 or 3 years when you've been on a team that hasn't made the runs that you anticipated coming up till now. That's all.
I totally understand that. And I'm sure this general manager group, to your point, is like working for job preservation, but like we're looking from the bird's eye view where we don't have to worry about Andrew Berry's job.
Yeah, I think job preservation is one thing, but I also think that it's just a mindset. It's a mentality.
Let's go through this.
That it's easier when you have nothing invested. It's a lot easier to be like, hey, it, blow it up.
It's not blowing it up though. It
is blowing it up.
It's already blown up.
You're blowing it up.
It's blown up. They got the second pick in the draft with Myles Garrett. What are you blowing up? What are you blowing up?
You're blowing up what chance you have. Like they still have
chance?
They have good players on defense.
This is nuts, man.
It's not nuts. You're nuts.
This is nuts, man.
It's not nuts.
So what's your solution here? That Shedeur Sanders is going to walk in and be Jaden Daniels?
So you're trying to make it. This is one of your favorite moves, is to try to create an argument that does not exist.
What's your argument for this being a smart build?
I'm not making this. At no point did I say this was a smart build. This is Poor Carrie. She has to argue with you where you just make stuff up and pretend like she said it.
It's called a straw man.
No, keep your stupid straw man. What I am doing is trying to explain why it is not as obvious to the people that are in the building that it is to you from the outside.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
So I agree with everything that you're saying, that given all these unique situations, that it would have been smart. If you could get 2 1s and 2 2s for Myles Garrett, a player who all the fans will be happy to see go, who won't be mad at you, in a situation that's already blown up, that's the move that you make. But I also understand that when people that you believe to be smart and reasonable make moves that seem unreasonable, there is an explanation for it.
Of course.
I'm doing my best to explain it, and you're yelling at me like I'm saying the Browns are a well-run institution.
No, I'm just saying, like, if you were the GM for the Browns,
right,
could you look at yourself and make the decision?
That's my point, is if I were the GM for the Browns, I like to say that I would be able to step back and say, yeah, this ain't work. We blew it. But I honestly think that if I was in that situation, I would be like, we got a bunch of NFL players on this roster. We are not as far away as we think. We got to be able to we're not as far away as it looks, because that's how it happens in the NFL. Like, I don't know. I like to be able to think that I could pull myself out, but they are attached to this. Like, you act like they just showed up and was handed to it. Like, they have invested in this. They believe in it.
Yeah. I guess my point would just be like, it's so tied to a single move that killed this organization, and that move absolutely came from Jimmy Haslam, that, like, I don't know if Andrew Barry or the staff can go to him honestly and be like, we didn't put us in this situation. Like, you are the one who.
Well, I mean, we don't know all the details, but he had to approve it.
He's the owner. When you make that move, when you're like, that has to be approved. Like,
so it came down to him not coming there because it wasn't fully guaranteed. And they said no at first. And then they changed their mind. I mean, you don't know how it came to yes. You don't know. You think Andrew Barry was in there like, no, don't guarantee.
No. I'm sure he wasn't. But still, like, it's definitely, like, the other owners were mad at him.
They were, because he allowed it to happen or he participated. But in what world do you live in where someone who works for Jimmy Haslam can walk in and say, you this up, Jimmy, so give us another shot. Give us another shot. Let us do it our way this time, because you ruined it. You think that goes well, huh?
You're talking to someone who talks out of their depth all the time. All the time. I just yelled. We just yelled back and forth about how an NFL franchise should be run, where I have no credibility. I'm not the person to be trifled with Jimmy Haslam.
You'll walk in there and just lay it on the table for Jimmy Haslam.
Yeah, this is like the time that John Wall came into our office to an interview, and people were like, "Are you going to go up to him?" I was like, "Absolutely not." I'm disgusted by it as a Wizards fan.
You were mad when he showed up?
I was just disgusted.
Oh, big John Wall fan.
By the way, I just opened up social media and saw Happy International Women's Day to everyone. Do you remember LeBron last year?
Yeah, that's
sitting next to Jeannie Buss saying, first of all, Happy International Women's Day.
Oh, man, that guy's got some that's the anniversary that coincides with another big LeBron off the court moment.
Oh my God.
We probably shouldn't talk about. Yeah. Nothing to talk about there. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. His groin being injured on International Women's Day, no less.
That hurts. I mean, he'll be healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the Lakers are a real contender?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's like, obviously, if LeBron's hurt, or Luka is incredibly out of shape or lazy in the postseason or things implode, I wouldn't be shocked by any of it. But they're certainly a wild card team. I got another story for you.
Let's do it.
So this was sort of floated on social media, and then Duke fans took a liking to it and chanted one more year at Cooper Flagg as they beat North Carolina. And this was floated that Cooper Flagg, if my Washington Wizards or the Charlotte Hornets or a Cleveland Browns-esque NBA franchise gets the number 1 overall pick, he should return to school. And this would be crazy. This is the NIL era, where maybe it's less crazy because we know someone like AJ DeBansa is getting between $8 and $13 million next year to play at BYU. Yeah. Cooper Flagg would be returning as the best player in college basketball, the presumptive number 1 pick, someone who could make a ton of money, maybe something close to his rookie scale. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's a million ways to go in this. It's also like it's more determining of his destiny, where he'll develop as a basketball player, but also it's putting off second contracts, putting off being in the NBA, competing at the highest level.
It's so unpredictable when you like put a big change into any sort of system. It's kind of unpredictable the ways that it will pan out. This one is something that we've seen in the offing for a while, and it's finally come to a realistic possibility. My original instinct is like go to the NBA because much like football, you want to get to that second contract as soon as possible. So the sooner you can get that clock started, and this is just from a purely financial standpoint, you're going to get better faster in the NBA with that competition, presumably. And you're going to get to that big max deal faster because you've started the clock on that contract. So while you could make the same amount in college for the next few years as you would make in the NBA, you will be putting off your big contract and potentially cutting off years on the back end of big contracts. Obviously, when you're in this situation, and this goes a little bit back to the Myles Garrett thing, is he's going to make so much money that it seems kind of foolish to be making this decision based on how to maximize, because I don't know, it's going to sound dumb, but it's going to be a difference in like $25 to $50 million or something in his career where he's probably going to make $600, $700, $800 million.
If Cooper Flagg plays 15 years in the NBA, he's got, with the way that the salaries are going, he has a legitimate chance to have $1 billion of on-career earnings.
Right. So
on-court earnings.
Right. So talking about this and getting to the second, or getting to your second contract faster, or starting the clock on it faster, seems kind of silly. But I mean, injuries and stuff, like we see what happened with so many players. The crazy part is Zion and Embiid are the worst case scenarios, it feels like, and they got caked up. So the only conversation that we're having now, which is that I think is very interesting, the argument for him to go back is in college, he becomes the lone major big star, or a lone major big star. And it does kind of bring back something that I think all of us who watched basketball in the 90s and early 2000s kind of miss, is where you get to, and we have it in football, where you get to know a player in college and you get to have a relationship with them and you get to care about them, and then you root for them when they get to the NBA, or you root against them when they get to the NBA, and that would be a cool return, and he would be setting some sort of precedent that other players might be interested in, which ultimately I think is probably pretty good for the NBA, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be very cool for a return to college basketball. You bring up college football, like this season of college football was so largely anonymous because of the conference realignment, because of the way that the transfer stuff has, that it didn't feel like those prior years of college football where there's rivalries, there's pageantry, there's fan bases, there's stuff like that. Cooper Flagg has a chance to really change that in a way that could be incredibly beneficial to who he is as a star. I think that'd be really cool. It's also, you know, a lot of this is that Adam Silver didn't value college basketball in ways that Goodell had valued college football as sort of a built-in, facial recognition program for the league.
Marketing.
Yeah. And so I think that part's really interesting. When I looked at this, though, it's like the date to declare for the draft is after the lottery. So he'll know, but he has an insane amount of leverage. We've seen this happen in the NFL, whether it's the John Elway or the Eli Mannings. Like, he's a John Elway type of prospect. Maybe not that, because that's like, he was like the top guy. This guy is a lock, incredibly high floor prospect. Whatever you think about his ceiling, he's going to be a very good NBA player at minimum if he stays healthy. I don't understand, with the fact that there are some good young teams with insane amounts of draft capital, could he not just determine, force a team to trade the pick? Like, say Washington, first of all, Cooper, if the Wizards get the first overall pick, hang out with Bub, hang out with Koulibaly. We're building something great here. We got it.
You're making
I'm just sitting directly down the camera. It's a great organization. We'll love you.
Can I take a time out for a second? This is the Jaden Daniels effect.
Oh yeah,
because you would never sell any of your franchises to anyone in the past. You would tell them to run and hide. But now, because Jade is here, you have faith, even in the Wizards.
Michael Winger's running it now. There's not a Grunfeld to be seen. Not a Grunfeld to be seen, Cooper. You can't turn down, like, we will trade Jordan Poole. Or cut it. Whatever you need.
Hold on. That's not showing some major commitment.
We will pay him not to ruin the first couple of years of your career. But if, like, say Charlotte gets the first overall pick, even though it might be a better situation. Like, if you want to demand a trade, I don't understand why that can't work for an NBA prospect. Like that was bantered about with Zion, that he wanted the Knicks to have the number 1 overall pick. But the difference is in this situation, there are teams like the Thunder and the Rockets that have, or Brooklyn, that have insane amounts of draft capital that could trade for that pick in a way that would be really interesting. Like the Thunder have between 9 and 15 first round picks in the next 7 years, and many of them are not going to be theirs at the end of the first round. Like, is there a world where they trade 8 first round picks to try and get Cooper Flagg, and Charlotte's like, yeah, this sucks. We're not going to have Cooper Flagg to put with Brandon Miller, but we'll have eight more picks. Every year we're going to have 2 top lottery picks and have more chances at this.
I like how you didn't even mention LaMelo.
Yeah,
you skip right to Brandon Miller, who's not even playing right now.
Because if you're Cooper Flagg and you're like, I'm going to play with this guy who's just going to stall my development as he just hunts for highlights. Yeah. So you're like, okay, maybe I will go back to Duke and play real basketball.
The interesting thing about this is my immediate instinct is like, you can't force that to happen. But because you have the stick of, in Elway, it's like, I'll play baseball.
Yeah.
And for Cooper, it's I'll stay in school.
Yeah.
Which is something that never really existed before in the past. You never really had that like a real legitimate threat. And you're saying like, look, you get a bunch of draft picks, figure something out for your organization, but I want to go. If he did that to go to OKC, would you immediately hate him and think it was Durantian and his?
No, because he's not the 3rd best player in the NBA.
I know, but forcing your way onto a loaded roster, I would have no problem. I
just think the draft is unethical, so I'm supporting.
Don't you try to come on my side?
I'm just supporting the players have a chance to have the best chance to succeed. Dominique, I can't believe you don't want that.
Oh gosh, you don't believe that. You love the olden days.
Okay. Good old days. I just want these guys to have a real chance at the career they deserve.
Oh gosh, it sounds so stupid when you say it. Oh man, so Cooper Flagg, come to Washington. It's a new city. It's gonna be so great here on the field, in the court, exclusively, and the ice. Your man Ovi be out there playing hockey and stuff.
Cooper, if someone
You're talking to Cooper again,
if someone ever criticizes you, like if Stephen A. criticized you, I will meet him courtside and tell him not to criticize my large adult son.
To be clear, no, you won't. You'll talk about it when the camera's off over here.
Oh, yeah, on the group chat. I'll be like, that guy.
But then given the opportunity, hey.
You can also change my life, Cooper.
No, you can't change it again. It's already been changed.
You can't have multiple changes?
I mean, it feels like a change back.
It can change more.
All right.
Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard.
All right. Appreciate you, Charlie. This was a fun episode. I'm rooting for your Wizards to capture the flag because it'll make the city so much more fun.
That core, Bub, Bilal, and Cooper,
we have
elite.
No bad sports weeks in DC. That would be really nice. All right. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks to all the great producers. Pavel, I love you. We out.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.